Okay, guys. So, that was this season's data. Remember, max, or min, max, first quarter, third quarter, quartile, median. Okay? So if you come down here, this would be for last season, our min, our max, this is the median. This would be first Q, quartile, and then third quartile is that line. Okay? So to find our interquartile range, find this by taking the difference of the third quartile and the first quartile. So we can do that again. So our third quartile was 23.5. Subtract out 13.5, which equals 10. Okay? Our IQR for this season was 11.5. That means between 50% average, okay? The 50% average, okay, 50% of our class, or 50% of our data, okay, this season has a higher interquartile range. That means the variance is bigger than last season. So last season has an IQR of 10, so it is smaller. Okay, so based on all our data, okay, in conclusion, okay, we need to look at like our minimum for this season was 7. Minimum for last season was 10. Okay, so they have a difference in mins. Okay. Maximum for this season was 49. Maximum for last season was 62. So there's a big range of data, right? Between 10 and 62, that's a big range of data. There's less range between 7 and 49. Okay? We also need to look at our... Okay. So last season, 50% of our scores, if I can spell today, were between 30 and 41.5. 30 is our first quartile. 41.5 is our third quartile. Okay. That was this season. Sorry, excuse me. This season has 50% of our scores between 30 and 41.5. And you can look up here, okay, at our box, okay? First quartile was at 30, and the third quartile was at 41.5, okay? This box right here that I'm marking in red, this represents 50% of our data. So 50% of our data falls between 30 and 41.5. So if we look here, okay, for last season, 50% of our data falls between first quartile at 13.5 and third quartile at 23.5. Okay, so for last season, 50% of our scores were between 13.5, and 23.5. Okay. Awesome. Okay. We also need to look at our median. So for this season, our median was at 35. So that means for this season, 50%, right? Because that's our median is the halfway point. It's at 50%. So 50% of our scores are greater than 35. For last season, okay, we need to look at our mean again, okay? So 35 was our mean. Our median. 35 is our median. Okay, so we also need to look at last season. So last season, okay, our median was at 20. Okay, so if our median is at 20, that means 50% of our scores are greater than 20. Okay? Awesome, guys. All right. So, let's move on. Now we're going to look at a histogram. Coach wants us to analyze the frequency of scores. Compare and contrast the scores with the highest frequency and the lowest frequency from this season and last season. So, this season, okay, remember this side on the left gives us our frequency. On the bottom is our scores, okay? So, we scored 0. Okay, we didn't have any scores between 0 and 6, but we had one score between 7 and 12. We didn't have any scores between 13 and 18, but we had one score between 19 and 24. We had one score between 25 and 30. We had 4 between 31 and 36. Okay, that's how you read that. So, our highest frequency for this season was in the interval. For our highest frequency in interval. Oh man, that looks horrible. Sorry, guys. In an interval 31 through 36 with a frequency of 4. Okay, now we kind of have a lot with a lowest frequency. Our lowest frequency was a 1. So our lowest frequency actually was 0, right? In the interval 0 through 6 and 13 through 18. So our highest frequencies happen in the interval 31 through 36 with a frequency of 4. Our lowest frequency interval was 0 to 6 and 13 to 18 with a frequency of 0. Now, last season, okay, we had a high frequency. So last season, our highest frequency was in the interval 19 to 24 with a frequency of 4, or with a frequency of 5. Okay. Now we had a bunch that were in 0, okay, and I'm not going to list them all, but you can see that like 0 through 6 has a frequency of 0, 31 through 36 has a frequency of 0. So in conclusion, okay, this season, okay, had a highest frequency in the interval 31 through 36, with a frequency of 4. Last season had a highest frequency in the interval 19 to 24, with a frequency of 5. So I would say this season we performed better, or Lakewood performed better because our highest frequency interval had a higher score between 31 and 36. Okay, guys, let me know if you have any questions, okay? Feel free. We can talk on Teams, Portal, Remind app, all right? So you guys remember to complete the practice problems, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you.